Howdy, SMITE fans? It's Jmac here. Are Invades back? Well, maybe, maybe not. But I do want to take a look at an Invade that we had in Week 2 of the SPL. Specifically, it was the Leviathans versus the Gladiators in game number 1, where Rongyu and his team tried to have a little bit of fun over around the green and purple buff up against the Gladiators. So let's go ahead and jump right in and kind of take a look at exactly how this broke down. Okay, for an invade like this to work, there's a lot of steps that have to be taken, and the most important one to start out with is the positioning of all the players involved here. So let's take a look at where everybody's standing to get this invade started. Number 1 is going to be Rongyu, standing inside the Gold Fury pit. The reason he's standing inside the Gold Fury pit as opposed to behind a rock, say over here, or back here, is that he's making sure that he doesn't catch line of sight of Stu immediately. Rongyu can still see Stuart, but Stuart can't see Rongyu, and Inbound is inside the pit over here, which means that he has absolutely nothing vision related to Rongyu. We'll actually see that Stuart tries to go up and patrol the area to see if anybody is standing by. He isn't, and Rongyu, now seeing that Stuart has turned himself around, can now walk out and reposition himself behind this rock. All the while, Zapman and Adapting are going to be doing these camps together. Now, Adapting will start at the speed buff, and the important thing about this particular start that Adapting does is that by killing the 2 small minions, he's actually setting himself up to hit level 2 whenever he pulls all 3 camps together with Zapman. As we continue to watch through, Adapting and Zapman will make sure to actually clear these buffs out altogether. Adapting will hit 2, but Zapman will not. Even if you were to do a traditional full 3 camp start, your duo lane would never actually hit level 2 together. So it's important that Adapting does clear out the 2 minions by himself, so that way he can hit level 2 once these camps do drop down. You can see the Cyclops wasn't fully necessary for the experience, but it still hit Zapman to level 2. Now, while Rongyu is getting himself set up, you can see that Stuart did not see him, Inbound did not see him, and Rongyu is standing back here behind this rock. It's very important on Rongyu's positioning during the entirety of this, not just to keep himself out of sight, but also where he's standing directly on the map and where he's standing in relevance to the players themselves. Rongyu always makes sure that he is standing, at least in this first half of the invade, behind the line where the invader's curse would actually take part, before he would actually get slowed down. This is all still considered neutral territory right here, so Rongyu is fighting at full strength and full power. But Rongyu will always be positioning himself in this general area, and you'll see the reason why here in just a sec. So Stuart and Inbound are going to pull the 2 buffs together, they're going to start pulling through the corridor, and Rongyu is going to start by attacking the buff, and this is going to give Inbound and Stuart a false sense that Rongyu actually wants to take the buff away. Because at this point, typically a Nox is going to be getting their second ability or their dash at this level. So you would think, okay, he's going to try and steal the buff away. But that's not the intention of Rongyu. He's not actually wanting to go for this buff. He's wanting to go for a kill on one of these 2 players. So he'll start, and immediately you see that Inbound and Stuart have to reposition themselves to block. Rongyu will continue bouncing himself around. And as soon as this buff is about to go down, this is the indicator that should be going off with the red flags for Stuart and Inbound, that Rongyu is not here for a buff invade, that Rongyu is here for a kill and to be annoying. Is because Rongyu, once the buff is about to go down, will instantly use his Shadow Lock or his first ability on Stuart. This locks him in place for a couple of seconds, and to me, this should have been the indicator Rongyu's not here for our buffs, he's here for us. We should probably be looking out to see what's going to happen around us. But that's not what happened. Stuart and Inbound continue to clear out their buff like nothing happened, and it's fine. And then immediately once the buff is finished and Stuart and Inbound are both moving at full speed, that's when the horrific emblem is popped by Rongyu. Now that they're back at full movement speed, he's getting full value from the horrific emblem to slow them down once again to continue this part of the invade. And again, talking about the positioning, this entire time around back here, Rongyu is bouncing himself between these 2 walls. What did he do whenever the Shadow Lock hits Stu? He puts himself right behind Stuart and continues to put himself in Stuart's pathing, making sure that if Stuart's trying to walk this way, Rongyu's going to block here. If Stuart tries to walk this way, Rongyu wants to block here. Because Stuart's moving at half speed, it's a little bit easier for Rongyu on a much smaller character to get some of these body blocks off. But the entire time, it's just to be in front of Stuart, to slow Stuart down further. And it's only at this part that we actually see the Invader's Curse kick in for Rongyu. So all the way up until now, Rongyu has been fighting at full strength in this invade. Now is where we actually see the movement speed penalty, the damage penalty, trying to actually go for this next portion of the invade. So, as Rongyu moves in, he's going to be moving himself to reposition once again behind Stuart. look how Wrong Yu has set himself up to be in the pathway of Stu if Stu tries to make it a retreat this way, or if Inbound tries to retreat that way. Wrong Yu is making sure that he is in that direct pathing and will once again stand back right in Stu's way and go for the Shadow Lock. Now, I want to pan to Adapting's point of view to exactly see what fully goes down wrong during this team fight and how things could have eventually kind of changed themselves up a little bit. When Adapting and Zatman actually cleared their camp, Adapting went through the Gold Fury pit, which will give him a pretty quick line down. But instead of going down here and snaking through this wall, Adapting is going to instead pull his position around this wall to continue to remain unseen. Because this whole time, Stu and Inbound are going to be facing this direction. So if they see Adapting turn this wall, they're going to try and back away. So instead, Adapting will snake himself around and go for a blink to go from behind this wall to immediately to the camp. Zatman, on the other hand, is snaking the long way through, and he'll be spotted on this ward, but by the time Zatman actually gets to this ward, it's not going to matter because the gank is essentially already done at that point. So, as mentioned, Adapting is wanting to make his path through here and around this wall to eventually blink and jump into the purple buff with Inbound and Stewart. So, watching from Adapting's point of view, nobody can be seen on this side of the wall. So what Adapting is going to do, and we're going to slow this one down, that way we can really break into it, is Adapting is going to immediately blink over the wall. By this point, Stewart has already been hit by the Shadow Lock from Wrong Yu now the second time during this entire invade. Because of this, Adapting has a free target to immediately use his first ability on that Deathbane, and since Stewart is locked in place, he can almost guarantee to hit all 3 ticks of it, which is going to do a lot of damage this early in the game. And Adapting does just that. He goes for the auto attack immediately, gets it onto Stewart, gets the Deathbane triple tap, and then as soon as that Deathbane ends, Adapting goes for an auto attack. And it's very important on this auto attack and to why I feel that this is where things could have been adjusted. Remember, Circuit passive, you get the poisons on people, you do a little bit more damage if there's more poison stacked up. Adapting's already level 2. Cobra's Kiss should have been active. Once that Deathbane went through, and then the auto attack, you didn't even necessarily need the auto attack, because then you're removing a stack of poison that you just applied with the Deathbane. Instead, if Adapting would have held on to Cobra's Kiss, he could have tried to tag Stu, which this shell would then be nullified because the damage from Cobra's Kiss would have taken away the health bar of him at that point. But instead, Adapting tried to go for the auto attack, tried to go for another auto attack after, and was way too far away from Stu. This buys Inbound so much time after the auto attack, missed auto attack, that Inbound, I should say, was able to use Shell and reposition himself from over on this side of the fight to immediately jump back in and now be in front of Stewart, which is against what Wrong Yu wanted to do. Remember, Wrong Yu's whole point was to stay behind Stu and make sure to body block him. But because all of this had broken down in the fight, Wrong Yu repositioned, Adapting repositioned, and that gave Inbound just enough time to reposition himself once more here with the shell active, and will instead be the one who eats the Cobra's Kiss. The taunt damage will hit Stu. That's not a big deal. But now Wrong Yu has no relics, or has no abilities. Adapting has no abilities. Both of them have used all of their relics to get here at this point. And where's Zatman all the while? We turn things back around, and Zatman has just now shown up to the fight and thrown out his Bramble Blast, which will hit Inbound, but Inbound's 2/3 HP. There's nothing they can do. So because Zatman was late on his rotation by taking a longer path in, he was late, so he couldn't get there for his CC and damage. Adapting missed out on his Cobra's Kiss, so his damage is gone. And Wrong Yu doesn't have anything else because he's only level 1 during this fight. Because of this, no kill actually happens, but it does mean that we might be seeing the start of some more potential invades later down the road. And I imagine a lot of teams are probably going to be out here theory crafting and definitely making sure that they are keeping ward coverage at all points, because Wrong Yu's position at the start of the game and the way that he played on this Nox is the only reason that this one was actually able to go through. So, are invades actually back? Yes, but also not really. This is the first real invade that we have seen outside of players like PBM just walking up and kind of being annoying while his team continues to get their farm game up. I hope you've enjoyed this video. We're going to keep our eyes on the invade meta to see if anything else breaks down the SPL in future weeks. I've been Jmac. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one.